You're watching SKST Radio.
Well. Welcome to another episode of SKST Radio, and you tuned into Small Business Network. And I have a new friend on the line here. He goes by the name of, is it Hasson Barnes?
You're right, Hasson. You got it.
Hasson. All right. Well, Mr. Barnes, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. For the audience, my name is Hasson Barnes. I'm an attorney, licensed to practice in the state of Maryland. We practice primarily in civil litigation, some criminal, mainly civil. We help small businesses form, whether it's choosing how they're going to form LLC versus corporation. We help them when they have disputes between partners. We help companies when they have shareholder disputes. And we do general litigation for businesses. We also do some family. When you have a small practice, typically family is part of their practice. So we help people transition, whether it's divorce from their partner, whether it's guardianship for elderly parent, whether it's custody of a minor child. We do the gambit. We even have done some cases that have been more extreme, people who have been accused of abuse of children, and we can handle those cases as well. But our main area is litigation. So in litigation, all forms. We do state litigation, we do federal litigation, we do district court litigation, circuit court litigation. We have myself and two associates and staff, but we're growing practice, and we're looking to expand in this market.
Okay, wonderful. So you answered one of the questions that I had. Is it just yourself, or if you had a group of people that's working with you?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I want to learn about you. So how did you get into this role? How did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Oh my gosh, that's a good question. So I've been a lawyer since 2007. It's been quite a few years. My initial path, I'm a bleeding heart. I like helping people. So I in college, I was working as a counselor, helping young people go to college, finish high school, get GEDs, find job training. I was doing great work in the community in Baltimore in particular, but I wasn't making any money. So I did good work, but I couldn't actually, financially, it didn't work very well.
Right.
So after a few years of that, I had a crossroads. I can't keep doing this and not live how I want to live. So what do? I had an option, law school, MBA. I chose law school. Law school seemed to be much more dynamic, had more options for me. So I chose law school, went to American University in DC, great law school, had a great time there. After law school, came back to Baltimore and started practicing. I worked for a small firm in Baltimore for about a year and a half, and I was an associate, which means I did any and everything.
You was the grunt, huh?
Any case came in, they'll give me a case to handle this. I would look at the file like, I don't even know the client's name. I don't know what kind of case this is. Well, you're a lawyer, figure it out. So my firm was very clear on, if you're an attorney, you got to be an attorney. We're not going to hold your hands. You're going to figure it out on your own. So I did all kinds of cases. Immediately, it was no second cheering. It was no supervising lawyer helping you. It was, here go file, here go the client's number, and figure it out. And I was doing jury trials very shortly after that. It was a great experience. It was hard. It was very, very hard. Being thrown in the deep end was very hard. But because of that, my practice now is diverse because I did so many different things as a lawyer. As an associate, I had more experience than you would normally see in most young attorneys. I started my own practice in 2009, 2010, but I've been going ever since.
Oh, wow. So is it difficult being an African-American attorney, young, doing it on your own pretty much?
So my initial experience was, the difficulty was being young, and that was more for clients. When you hire a professional, you want to see someone who you think has experience. You get a young man, his voice may be still quivering because he's so young and he looks young. No one's willing to give him money to say do a case. That was the hard part. The reality is, in the community, legal community, is too few blacks involved, too few African American lawyers. Male, female, doesn't matter. However, in this region, I would say from Connecticut down to maybe Virginia, you have an influx of black lawyers. But beyond that, there's not many of us around. In my law school class, we had sections in law school, I think 5 sections. In my section, there may have been between 5 and 10 African Americans in a section of 75. So it wasn't many at all. It wasn't many blacks in the legal profession. As a practitioner, as a young lawyer, I didn't notice it as much, but oftentimes I was the only black person in the room. So you would have a judge, you would have the opposing counsel, you have your clients, and you would have yourself, and you have the bailiffs and the sheriffs and the clerks. And it's been many times where I was the only person who looked like me in the room. Did it bother me? Not really. I mean, going to law school, going to undergrad, I'm used to being the only black person around, so that part didn't bother me. But what I enjoyed about it was that no one forgot me. I walked in the courtroom, people knew who I was because there's very few people who like him around.
Right.
Clients called me, oh, I remember him from court. Of course you do. I was the only one who liked me in court, so you saw me in court. So it was never missing who I was. It was never a question as to who I was, which meant I had to do a good job because you get remembered for who you are, for good or for bad. So if I went there and I did poorly, people would notice and recognize it.
Right.
And as a lawyer, your number one calling card isn't commercials. It isn't you saying I'm a great lawyer. It's when people see you doing your trade, see you in court trying cases, they tell people they know about you. And that's the best way that I've seen lawyers build their practice. So people who are clients and other lawyers, we get quite a few clients from other lawyers because they've seen me in court and seen the work I can do. But because I'm African American, I stand out. It's in my favor.
Right. Now I was thinking of if you had to go through call me Mr. Tibbs, you have to
No.
make the point that you are,
Yeah.
you demand that respect, I guess is what I was pointing at. It was kind of like, is that hard? Just gaining that respect from your counterparts.
I never had an issue. So it's some people I'm sure who didn't like me. I don't know whether because I'm black or because it's my personality. But I'm fairly straightforward. So when I've had issues with other lawyers, it's never been something where someone could push me in a way that I want to be pushed. I control my environment. I control how I communicate. I control how my case goes. And I'm pretty self-assured. So I don't necessarily have any insecurities about my ability to do the work. I don't have the imposter syndrome. Some people have imposter syndrome where they feel like they're not ready or worthy of their position. I never had that. So as a result, I may come off sometimes, I say this humbly, I may come off sometimes as a young lawyer a bit arrogant, a bit condescending to my colleagues who may not be African American. And for that, I apologize. But because of that, no one attempted to push me because I was already in a position where I may have seemed aggressive to them or I may have seemed arrogant. One of the issues I will say this, culturally, depending on where you're from, the word aggressive means something different. Aggressive to me isn't a bad word. It's a state of being. But other people see that as being offensive. I don't, but I do know that I've been seen as aggressive by opposing counsel. And because I don't see it as offensive, I never took it as a slight. So I've never felt like people are treating me poorly because I'm African American. I have seen, in my view, I've seen cases go a certain way for clients based on their race, based on white or black. I've had cases where I've had white clients and black clients and different outcomes. And the difference was the client race, not my race. Where I may have had a black client who had a drug charge and got jail time, and I may have a white client who got a drug charge and got probation. The difference with the client. A lot of times people treat you based on their perception. Well, for me, as an attorney, I was in court so much, most judges knew who I was before I came in, and they would know me. Mr. Barnes, how are you? I've never seen a judge before in my life. Again, it's so few of me around than it was back then. They knew who I was. They knew I did good work. But it doesn't mean people don't treat you differently in a way that's not perceptible, in a way you don't see, in a way you don't understand. So I would say this for black lawyers. It's more black lawyers now, but it's still too few black lawyers around. We need more. We need more motivation in schools to tell young people law could be a profession for you. Law, medicine, finance. Those are a profession you can go into. It's more profession than a normal, teachers or accountant. You can be any number of things, and there are people around who can do the work like you, and you can do the work as well.
Mm-hmm. But that is so interesting. My I take my hat off to you because first of all, I love seeing an African American man in your position. I know Donald G, who is like, I guess, one of the first African American attorneys here in Virginia, and he used to sponsor the show, and he used to come on every week and talk about, just different things. And I just love seeing him work, just seeing him, dish out that knowledge, because he was someone that, I'm not from Virginia, I'm from Dallas. So
Okay.
to see that someone from Virginia, uh, of our color, I guess I want to say, I didn't want to make this whole thing about a racial thing, but just to see that was very, very, it made me feel good inside, just to see that he was able to give back and answer questions, and just, willing to share his wisdom with our community, And so what you're doing, I'm really proud of you,
Thank
first of
you. Thank
all.
you.
And then I want to ask you about your support system. What type of support system do you have?
So you mean work wise? So for work purpose,
No,
I build
for home wise. What?
personal, all kind of friends and family. Going through law school was an interesting time. I lived in Baltimore and I commuted to DC. I didn't want to live in DC, so I commuted from Baltimore to DC. And during those 3 years of law school, my family kind of left me alone. They kind of before law school, I bought a house, so I had somewhere to live, and I lived very humbly. And people kind of left me to my own devices because they knew I was in education mode. So I would be in school all day, and I'll come home and relax. After my first year in law school, I worked in Baltimore City at the public defender's office. I was a law clerk. So on day either I was in school or I was working in school or working. And as a law clerk, I did all kind of things, whether interviewing people who were in prison for motions, going to crime scenes. I did anything I could do, I was doing. Reviewing the hearings from judges to see their inconsistent rulings, reviewing cases from police officers to see whether they had pattern of abuse or against defendants. So I was doing all kind of stuff. So my days were extremely full. So my family and friends kind of let me to my own devices during law school. After law school, I mean, as an attorney, I'm sure you may know, you see on TV lawyers working at 1 or 2 in the morning. That's a real thing. When I was a young lawyer, I worked late hours all the time.
Oh,
I
wow.
only worked 1 or 2 in the morning frequently. On a Tuesday or Wednesday, it wouldn't matter what day of the week it was. So my family and friends gave me much support. So in support terms, in terms of just being there if I needed something. If I say, hey, let's get together and hang out, everyone was always available because they knew I wasn't always available to hang out and spend time. People kind of gave me broad breath to do what I needed to do to get my degree and start practicing. Unfortunately, and lucky for me, I was able to work and build my own practice. The hard thing in our community, quite often, people are often first generation educated. So whether it's undergrad or grad school, you're first generation. People don't always have the means financially to start their own businesses. Other communities may have more resources where their father or mother may be lawyers, or their grandfather may have been a judge, or great grandfather was judges. In our community, that's not that common. So the reality is, most people in my situation, they get jobs that maybe they don't want just because they want to pay the bills. So instead of going into a field where you may want to go into, you go into the first thing, smoking, to get a job so you can pay your bills. Instead of opening a business and starting from scratch the way you want to, you do what you have to. Luckily for me, I had enough means to, from going to work and saving money, to do my own thing without having to depend on family. But family supports me a lot. Mom, dad, partners, everyone supported me, friends, through law school and after law school.
Wow.
And I'll say this for your audience. Support could mean going to mom's house on Sunday and having a good meal. To me,
Yeah.
that was the best support I can get. Having some fresh, some hot fried chicken, some collard greens, and some potatoes, and some that's for me was better than any other verbal support. Going to mom's house is having a good home cooked meal that mom made. It brings back memories of childhood and just relaxing and decompressing. That was better than anything else I could get.
Wow. So tell us about personal injury claims. How did you get into personal injury?
So as I said, the firm is broad. We do various areas of law, and we mainly do civil litigation. Well, litigation includes personal injury. Personal injury is one part of our practice. Our practice set up in sections. We have a settlement division, and we also have a litigation division. For settlement, when people call in, they call in for personal injury. If you've been injured in a car crash, motorcycle crash, truck crash, call us and we'll walk you through the process. Our process is, first thing first, is we evaluate the claim. Tell me what happened. Nowadays, people have cameras in their cars, and they have cameras on dashboards. So I've had clients come in and show me the camera to show me what happened. So that helps us to evaluate the claim. The second thing is, well, even before that, to figure out, are you okay? Are you able to drive home? If you're home already, have you seen a doctor? Are you injured? If you're injured, see a doctor. No, we don't recommend a doctor. We say go to your primary. My main thing is personal injury is a situation where you're trying to get made whole. You will be made whole from the injury you sustained. The goal is to get better. So go to your doctor. What does he or she say? You need treatment. We'll find you a therapist or a doctor or PT or a chiropractor. But first thing first, get checked out. Get your back checked out. Get your neck checked out. Make sure there's no underlying issue that can cause more harm in the future. So we do that. And once we find out your medical condition, then we move forward and getting you seen by a physical therapist or chiropractor to help you get back to 100%. Once you, and some people need more treatment than others. Some people need orthopedic surgeons, some people need surgery, some people need more advanced treatment, and we walk you through the whole process of that. Once that's done, then we'll get involved in making demands against the insurance company to see whether we can make you whole for the loss of the injury. We got into personal injury because clients come in. You do a good case for a client, whether it's a business client or family client, and say, Mr. Barnes, we need help. Can you help us? And the answer has been yes. So we got into it kind of organically. People call and say, can you do it? And we did 1, then we did 2, then we did 10, then we did 20, then we did 30. And it went from there.
Well, yeah, it only takes one, right? Then
Yeah.
Then snowballs. So when you're in an accident, so do you call the insurance company first, or do you call your attorney first?
So no, don't call the insurance company first. My view is everyone's insurance companies are there to protect you, but they're also there to protect their investors, which means to pay out as little as possible. They want to find a way not to pay you, whether your insurance or the other person's insurance. They want to pay out. When they pay out, they lose money. So anything you say to them could give them a reason to pay you less. I know people have called the insurance, like, I want to negotiate myself. It never works out well for them. It never does. When you call, the cue to the insurance is you're desperate for money. You're desperate. We'll fix that for you. We'll give you a couple $1,000 to go away. They'll take you seriously, so you get lesser offers. It's oftentimes I get calls from clients who have been through treatment, have done the whole process, have made claims, and they call me in the back end saying they offered me $500 for pain and suffering. I get involved, and within a week I get them $5,000 more. Because when you do it yourself, no one trusts you, and no one's going to value what you say. Typically, you don't call the insurance until your lawyer gives you the go ahead. Okay, call your insurance, make a claim so they know that you're injured. You don't do record statements. They often want to get you on the line and say, we're going to do a record statement. No. The purpose of those statements typically is to make sure they can find a way to exclude you from getting paid on the back end. Don't do record statements. Have your lawyer on the line when you do it, and your lawyer will tell you yes or no, and most lawyers don't do them either. So it's never a good idea for you to do them. Most folks do record statements. The only time you, in Maryland, it may be different in Virginia, where you do a recorded statement. In Maryland, you have what's called PIP, personal injury protection, is a portion of your policy. For those cases and those claims, you may do a statement because you have to cooperate with the insurance company to get that money. But even that is limited. You limit that statement very, very, very drastically. So to your audience, don't give statements. Call your lawyer first. Don't give information. Call your lawyer first. Your lawyer will tell you when to call and what to do once you talk to him or her about your case.
Wow. Okay, so Mr. Barnes, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with more information. How cool is that?
Appreciate it. Nice.
Well, if you just tuned in, you haven't tuned in too late. You tuned in to the Kami Grayson Show. And I have a new friend that I just met. He goes by the name of Hasson Barnes. He's an attorney, and he is telling us all his good information. So thank you for being on the show again.
Welcome.
So the question I have for you is, do you find that African-American people don't do the right thing they don't know, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know the proper steps that they need to take when they are in an accident, or they're not, the insurance company don't educate you on what you need to do. They give you this little app and they let you figure it out. And half of the times, and I learned this from Donald G, half the times people don't even know what their policies are. You don't know. You think that you have full coverage and you really don't. What can we do to educate our people so they can understand what their needs are when they're buying all this insurance?
You're right. So I've seen a lot of that recently. People have policies and they're getting the bare bones policy, and they think they're paying for the premium Cadillac version, and they get the Kia. Um, and they have no idea until they get into a car crash and they're not covered. Um, I would say this: when you're talking to insurance company, don't mention you want the cheapest policy around. Make them explain to you what they're offering you, and the reality is they will, because they want to sell you. So make them on the front end tell you everything you're getting and not getting before you agree to anything. When you get on the line and your first thing is, I want the most affordable, they're going to be the most affordable, and which means you might as well have no policy. And it's not going to be helpful for you. You want to make sure they can explain to you in granular details every provision of your policy, whether it's how much is for one person in the car, how much is it for a group, how much is it if your car gets totaled, how much is it if it's only you and your injuries. Do they cover any lost wages? You want to know all of it, and they'll tell you. But typically, they're trying to sell you, so they're going to tell you as little as possible to get you to sell. Take some time. If you take time in figuring out what kind of car you want to buy, take time and figure out the terms of your policy as well.
Wow. So, do you offer that type of information on your website, possibly, where people need to just kind of come to you to get a general idea of what's needed?
So in the past, we have not given consults for people to talk about the policy before they've done it, for a couple of reasons. Primarily, consults, it could be pricey for people for the purpose of just figuring things out. We can do that if people were interested, but I don't think most lawyers will handle it that way. But if anyone in your audience wants to call in and ask about the policy, we'll take their phone call and we'll help them through the process. But typically in the past, we haven't done it because there hasn't been a real request for it in a big way. Typically, we do paid consults. So when they call in, they pay. And most folks haven't seen the value in paying for the consult and to go over a contract that they may or may not sign. But general tips for you guys in the audience, you don't ask for the cheapest policy around. Make sure they explain all the provisions to them. And when you say full coverage, ask them what that means for the insurance company. Because you think one thing it may be something different for the insurance company. Full coverage is a term of art. It's not an actual thing. So you want to know, what does full coverage mean? Right. How much insurance am I giving for myself, for my passengers, and for the other side as well?
Wonderful, wonderful. So now, if you could give some words of wisdom to someone who is trying to be an attorney, such as yourself, what type of words of wisdom would you give them?
I'll say this: the law is a profession. I enjoy the profession. I'm a member of several bar associations. I'm a member of the Baltimore County Bar Association, the Baltimore City Bar Association, the Maryland State Bar Association, the American Bar Association. I enjoy lawyers. Lawyers are known to be stuffy and eggheaded. I don't mind that so much. It's a great profession. It's a profession that can allow you to take care of your family. It's a profession that gives you so many resources. The reason I chose law over other professions because you can do anything. Most politicians are lawyers. Not all, but most are lawyers. Look at your state legislature, your local city council, county council, federal government, U.S. representatives. Most of them are lawyers for a reason. Not that they practice, not that they try cases, but they've learned how to understand and read and interpret the law. People in business are lawyers. Most businesses have lawyers, either general counsel or people involved in the actual company are lawyers. The skill set the law gives you, it gives you the ability to learn how to think critically about things in a way that you wouldn't otherwise do. You learn how to read, write, and think critically. The biggest skill that I see in minority communities primarily is critical thinking and lack thereof. We don't always have the patience or time to think critically. They've been more reactionary. But when you can think critically, you can determine the path of the life you want to live and how to get there. So if you want to be an attorney, it's law schools all over the country. Most states have 2 or 3 law schools. Between Maryland and Virginia, it's about, I don't know, 15 law schools. They're everywhere, and they don't mind taking your money. There's many law schools around, and I would say this: state law schools are great. I went to law school in another state. I went to D.C., but most local state law schools are just as good as the big law schools. You learn the same information, you have the same degree, and once you're a lawyer and once you're practicing, people don't really care what school you went to. I've never had a client, maybe once or twice, say what school you went to, and if they said it, they wanted to know because a relative was a lawyer as well. But typically, the clients don't know what's a good law school, what's not a good law school. They don't know whether you went to Harvard or Georgetown or American or any other law school. So keep that in mind. The skill and the tool of law school isn't the degree; it's the intellectual tools you're given being in law school and how you're able to use that to your benefit. So if you want to go to law school, and law school, not like going to medical school, you can have any major in undergrad to go to law school. You can major in science, you can major in math, you can major in English, you can major in history and sociology, and still go to law school. For those of you who are not sure, law school is typically 3 years after undergrad. So you will go to school for 4 years, get your undergraduate degree, and then you'll go to a law school, which is a graduate school. Most law schools are 3 years. They have some part-time programs where it's 4 years. And that's how you do law school in most states in this country. It's long, it's expensive, but it's worthwhile. And ultimately, you get the benefit of the time and effort you put into law school.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Mr. Hasson, can you tell people how to get in contact with you?
Sure. Website is www.hbarneslaw.com. That's www.hbarneslaw.com. You can call the office. It's 443-423-0548.
Wonderful, wonderful. I want to thank you for being on the show today, and I would like to invite you back. Because you have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure that people need people like you. And so,
anytime, give me a call. We can work it out.
Sounds good. I love it. Absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. And guys, thank you for tuning in to SKST Radio. Say goodbye, Hasson.
Take care, guys.